West Ham United return to action with a draw at Craven Cottage, and I'm looking forward to this one. Frankie, what was your thoughts on that game at the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, like I said to you before, last year was tough, so it was a really difficult one to suffer, and I just really wanted us to go and make a bit of a statement. We said, you've had that first little before the first international break to learn and get a good understanding of your players and your squad. But when the starting lineup comes out, it was a bit like, well, how much have you learned in that first few games? Because I think a lot of us were so surprised to see that initial lineup. We've seen it for a long time and know that some of those things just don't work. And if we rewind to first game of the season, I think me and you both had the opinion of, let Antonio have his chance. Let him show us what he's all about. And come half time of that game one, that experiment, that kind of initial, let's show us what you're all about and what you can give, was gone. But we're still seeming to persevere with it. So I can't get my head around it. We all sat here debating on how that front three would look. And I'm not sure any of us, especially with the travelling back from international duty that he had to do, felt that he would be the man listed on the team sheet. So it sort of was downhill from moment one, really.
Yeah, not many people had Antonio as striker. Not many people had Thomas Souček as the number 10. And I think even lesser people had both players in their team. I, for what it's worth, I didn't see anybody with that, but I don't like to use statements. Nobody said that because I don't know. I assume there might be some people out there that wanted to see both of them. So I'll say nobody, as far as I'm aware. Now that the dust has settled, that's why I like doing this podcast during the week, because it's when I do the review at the weekend, it's very emotional. I was almost like happy because we got the point, but I wasn't happy with the performance. But sometimes come Tuesday, Wednesday, I can be a bit calmer, whether it's I've been really happy now, I've come down a bit, I've been really angry, and I've come up a little bit. I've returned to a neutral position, if you like. With that in mind, with the benefit of hindsight, do you understand why he selected the team he did?
No, not really. If I'm honest, I don't understand it one bit. It wouldn't have been the way that I would have lined up. I just don't see what he felt he was going to get from it. We know Antonio had a lot of travelling to do. This is the problem. None of us really know, do we? Right? So, and this is why I think sometimes I find it very difficult when people have a really strong opinion and you don't really know all of the detail. Now, I'm pretty sure that the manager goes on the training ground when everyone comes back and they have a conversation. How do you feel? That would go down. How do you feel? Yeah, that's what happens. So where we're all going, Paqueta has been dropped and this, that and the other, you don't know what's gone on in the background. There may be situations where the manager sits down, I ain't feeling too good, boss. I've had a bit of a cold all week. I've had this, I've had that. We're not leaking what we used to in press conferences and stuff like that.
Well, when, just to intervene, I didn't know this, but I did a video with Jack for Patreon on Monday, and Jack's the Fulham fan that I did a video with before the game. And he's a journalist, so he was in the press conferences for Marco Silva and Lopetegui after the game. And he said he wasn't paying too much attention to Lopetegui because he'd obviously a Fulham correspondent, so he's ready for Silva. He said, but one thing Lopetegui was asked about was basically, why did you not start Lucas Paqueta? And Lopetegui's reason was that because of the travelling and his late return from international duty with Brazil, and that's why he didn't start against. So that's the sort of the official line from Lopetegui, if you like. But as far as I'm aware, he did pick up a knock when he played for Brazil. The second game in which he got an assist for. I think he did pick up a knock when he was out there.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point, isn't it? That, we don't know what happens. We don't know about them conversations. We don't know what happens on the physio bench. I'm sure these players come back, they're assessed by the club, the manager and the coaching staff have conversations. How fit do you feel? How you been? What's gone on? If players have picked up a little knock, that will be assessed. So there's a lot more that goes on that we're privy to. So when people are screaming and going, this player's been dropped and that player's been dropped, we don't know that. We're just sitting here seeing what the lineup is and how the lineup comes comes out, and it's a surprise to us. But I always give it a little bit of benefit of the doubt and say, well, we don't know what conversations have been had. We don't know how the players feel. That may be some of the reasoning behind the way that things are done. So I try and not totally isolate it into, you know, just one view or one match. There is a bigger picture here. So we're all surprised that he lined up the way he did. But how much are his hands tied? We don't have a lot of options. I know we've got a bigger squad in certain areas, but there are some areas where we don't have many options. You know, Mavropanos has made a mistake, but Tadebo's not about at the moment. We don't know the total ins and outs of what's going on now. We had a lot of people on international duties. They've come back. We don't know their situations. Ideally, I don't think anyone felt that with that travelling that Mikel Antonio has had to do, because he's, you know, it is long distance travel that he has to do sometimes, it's ideal that he's the man who starts straight away. But take that out of the picture. It's the whole thing, isn't it? We know that the back end of last season, he's really struggling. He's struggling to find the net. It's carried on again into this season. We haven't seen anything from him really that makes you go, he's a man that we're going to be relying on this season. So with that all said and done, you want the manager to find a different answer. It seemed like a bit of a lazy solution. Oh, Antonio's flown, he's come back. We haven't got much else. Chuck him up there. Job done. I don't want to see that. I need to see a bit more creativity. We know that he did change it at half time. Yeah, okay, like you said, and we've had a little chat before we went live. Yeah, no. Well done. There's no pat on the back for changing it at half time, but at least he did see that he's got an issue and he did need to make changes.
I'm willing to acknowledge. I'll acknowledge it. I will acknowledge it that he's done it, and that's good. But I'm just not. I'm not going to throw praise his direction for rectifying something. That's like me. Well, it's like what I did do not long ago, Frankie, as you know, when I was putting up a picture, lazy ass here didn't go get the little meter for checking the utilities behind the wall and hit a gas pipe, right? Once that was repaired, I wasn't saying, oh, well done, you got the gas leak sorted out. Well, no credit. You're the dumbass that burst that in the first place, right? You're just fixing your mistakes, your own fault that you're having to get this fixed kind of thing. I agree with what you're saying in regards to we don't know what goes on, and there's obviously conversations, and I think it's wilder to suggest that there isn't conversations between the manager and players than to suggest there is. The things that I find which are contradictory to some extent is when Lopetegui said that Paqueta had done the travelling and stuff. Well, Mikel Antonio's second game was after what Paqueta's was and had longer to travel back. So at best, you'd imagine they returned at the same time, but yet Antonio was able to start and Paqueta wasn't. And even if he had a knock, he was okay to play the entire second half as well. So clearly it was felt that he could play at least half the match. So I'm always of the opinion, start your strongest team. And if he's only got an hour under his belt, get him out for the first hour. And hopefully by that point you're winning and you've got something to hold on to.
And I agree with that. I agree with that.
So I just found his reasoning was a little bit, I'm not sure, but even with
everything
in mind,
I get it. But we can play devil's advocate on it again. That you start with your best team, go out there, get yourself in front, get yourself a foothold on the game. Football's about momentum, and at the end of the day, you don't want to fall behind and have to chase a game. It's not ideal. But as we said, that conversation, you might have actually been, look, the physios might have assessed Paqueta. He has had a knock. He's come back. He's a bit sore. He's a bit tender. We'd rather him not feature today. But Lopetegui might turn around and go, I'm going to have him on the bench because if we're desperate, it might be a dice that roll that I'm prepared to do. Fair. And that's it. You know? That's
fair. But even all things aside, now that dust is settled, all things aside, that question I asked, do you understand? You said no. The reason I'm a no as well, because even if Paqueta was unavailable, the Souček Antonio thing, we've already seen it this season, but you go back last season and stuff, and he's claimed he's watched us last season non-stop. Lopetegui does all West Ham ins and outs and stuff. There's an element of me that, tongue-in-cheek, thinks you're blagging this sunshine. I don't believe you've been watching us last season, because if you had, I'm not sure you'd be putting together what you have been putting together in some games, because that is not something that's done off the back of what you've seen at West Ham last season. I'm all for giving players an opportunity. I think that's what he's done. I was hoping that's all he was doing. But I don't know. I think it's maybe horses for courses, and we're not really... I wouldn't be surprised, basically, Brentford away, maybe, depending how we're getting on against Chelsea, maybe Brentford away. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Thomas Souček back in the starting 11. And it's maybe not Antonio up front, or Antonio's up front and Souček's not in the starting line. It's not the end of the season for these two players. They're going to start many more games this season. I was just a bit disappointed, I think. I felt it was a bit of an opportunity, and I think it was a bit of an easy one for Lopetegui. Changing the team's a big decision, regardless of who you do it. So this weekend, or you can take Mavpanos out and put Todibo in. It's a big call, whichever one he does. We all have what we want, and I think the majority would like to see the change. But it's for Lopetegui, it's a difficult one to make. But when a player gets injured and it's a player that perhaps isn't performing, in the case of Fulham yet, and Antonio's back late from international, if he ever wanted to change it, Lopetegui, it gave him almost like a free pass to do it, to put Bowen up front and put Kudus on there. He didn't have to explain himself. There was no difficult decision. There's no justification required. It was already done for him because of the player availability. So in the end, though, were you happy with the point, happy with the performance? What did you make of the game itself as well?
Not really. And only because, like we said, these sort of next 3 to 4 games are really going to be setting up our season. I felt like this was going to be the marker, really, that you want to lay down to say that we are going to be this top 6, top 7 side that people have tipped us to be. That game makes you say that you're probably falling a little bit short of that at the moment, to be honest. I don't think we're going to be pushing for that top 6, top 7 with the way things are, and the way that we've gone about getting into the top 6, top 7 in previous years has been a good start, a fast start. And getting points on the board early doors. Like we had a conversation just before. Where were we at, come January last season? It was, we're right up there. So we're a little bit off the pace as things stand at the moment for where I guess we would want it as a target. I think if we all sat there and said, after the games that we've played now, where would we like to see ourselves? We're probably, and I know it's a tough start, but we say it every single season. Every single season, we all stand there and go, oh, it's a tough start. It's always a tough start in the Premier League. We had a bit of fortune that we didn't have to leave London for quite a while. So there's no travelling. We're settled. We're at base. It would have been nice for us to just go and make a few statements in these games and be a bit further ahead of where we are. But we're not, and we are where we are. I always said that I was going to be very, very patient. And this is something that I'm going to stick to, because I think sometimes we have been a bit passive as a fan base. It's not how West Ham used to be. Sometimes we've accepted things too easily, I would say, in the past, some big decisions that have happened in our football club, and we've all just sort of tolerated it and let it sort of go by, and then we all start to make noise when it's too late. I don't think this is one of those times. We're not Arsenal. I don't want to see us to become the same as they were with Arteta, when they're all screaming and shouting and, get him out and all this. I don't want to hear any of it, really. I just want to see us give him, as you said, that time up until Christmas, reassess, see where we are, give him a proper run before we start to be too critical, really. He's still finding his feet. He's still trying to understand the squad. Yeah, okay, we're a little bit behind where I wanted us to be, but I'm all right with it. I always said this season I saw us as mid-table and staying away from trouble is what I expected. I didn't really buy into all of this. We're going to go straight on and kick on and be this top 6 side that some people were tipping us to be. So I'm not getting aggy at this time. I didn't think it was a brilliant result. I wanted us to see us win just to take the pressure off the Chelsea game, really. But now, we said the same thing. If we don't get the result of Fulham, I've got big expectations for Saturday now. We've got to go and beat Chelsea. That's it. That's how I see it. So pressure's on. I want to see us come out of a positive performance. I don't think they're that great, and I want to see us come out and do a job on them.
Well, one player that did come out with a positive performance and positive impact was Danny Ings. Maybe a surprise hero of the day, if you like. 2 weeks ago, he was not even on the bench of the Carabao Cup game as we took on Bournemouth. There was a lot of talk that we were trying to offload him. Some talk, rumours that we were debating ripping up his contract just to get him out the door so we could bring somebody else in. Then, fast forward 2 weeks and bang, he's coming on the bench and grabbing an equaliser for us. Football's a very, very short-term thing in this day and age, and that just goes to show Danny Ings. But keeping that in mind, I guess, does this change anything for Danny Ings? Has he suddenly become a viable option for Lopetegui?
I think he has to be an option over Antonio, because I don't think Antonio's offering a lot. You could say that Danny Ings can't play on his own up front. Well, he certainly would get himself in a better position than Antonio to score a goal at the moment, which he proved at the weekend. So I think he's an option. It's really tough, isn't it? A part of me says that he wanted to stick around because to him, he believed that he's still got something to offer. I think he's always believed that. Every time we've seen him enter the field for West Ham, no matter whether it was Moyes playing him in the 10 role, whether it be whatever it was, he's always come on and given every single thing that he can. He's always run around and put a shift in, and never been defeated about basically what was probably not the best move for his career, really. So I've got no questions with that. My issue comes where it's like, if it wasn't because he feels like he's got something to prove to West Ham and the manager's sort of sat him down and said, look, I don't think you're going to feature much, and he's just dug his heels in, and that is what has stopped us going and signing someone like Duran, who I'm ruining a little bit at the moment because he just looks like some talent, doesn't he? I mean, that goal he scored last weekend was incredible. So I long for a player like that, someone with more athleticism, someone who's prepared to have a go, someone who's gonna.
He's got the X factor, hasn't he?
He has that pace, that just a nuisance, that bit of attitude that you want from a striker who is a goal scorer. So, yeah, if he's blocked us potentially moving forward and bringing in someone of that calibre, and that's why we've ended up in the position within Antonio and Füllkrug as the options, with Danny Ings playing a very, very bit part, then it's not ideal. But, he's come on again. He's putting himself about. He's got into a good position. It's a great touch. It's a great striker's finish. I mean, he's shown more in that little cameo he's had there than Antonio's shown all season so far. So that does suggest that he has got a role to play in the team at this season. So, look, we're paying him a lot of money. If we can utilise him and he can get us goals like that, then yeah, we've got to do it.
I think he's become at least an option. We'll do our Chelsea preview tomorrow. I'm not sure I have him in my hypothetical 11 I'd like to see, but we need a goal and there's 10 minutes to go. Well, why not? I think it's important. The one thing that I hope there's a few things I hope Lopetegui does differently to last season, and there's a few things I hope he continues to do that we did last season as well. But one thing I hope he does change is I felt that sometimes last season and prior that a player would do something individually in a match and think, right, now is this his chance? Has he now got that little bit of confidence, that little bit of momentum, just himself, not necessarily the team? So we didn't win, but while some players would have come off that pitch at Craven Cottage, maybe a bit disappointed with their own performance, and there should be some of them. I wouldn't be surprised if Ings came off buzzing, thinking, oh, I've done that. I've just gone out there and I've absolutely smashed it, right? And I feel like sometimes in the past that's happened with certain players, but the next game they wouldn't even be on the bench, or they'd be on the bench and not come on. And that small smidgen of momentum they'd gained in a performance would just disappear just as quick as it was recovered. And I just hope we can capitalise on that Danny Ings thing. And that is, even just coming off the bench would be enough, I think, against Chelsea on Saturday. And obviously, it's circumstantial, because if we're 10 minutes going with 2-1 up, we're probably not going to be bringing Danny Ings on. But I think he will know that. He's not stupid. He's going to be aware that when we're winning and there's 10 minutes to go, you're not bringing a striker on. You're packing up your defence then. But if we're 1-0 down or we're drawing and we need a goal, then that's where he would be thinking, this is my time. And I think it's important that we almost give players encouragement and therefore motivation, which is, you've got a chance here. The last thing I want is between now and January, these moments just disappear past us. And it's almost like, it feels like we're carrying deadwood then for a little while. It's like, well, what's the point of him? Like Maxwell Cooney, what was the point of him being at West Ham? There wasn't any. The team would come out, he'd be on the bench. You knew he wasn't even coming on, no matter what. We used to joke about Jordan Hugo, Mubama. What's the circumstances for this player to come on? And there wasn't any. 3-0 up, nah, he's still not coming on. This guy is 3-0 down, nah, still 1-0, no. You almost couldn't name a set of circumstances on the pitch for that player to come on. And I just don't want to get down that road with anybody in the squad at the minute. Ings has given himself a bit of a chance now. Lopetegui threw him on as a Hail Mary, I think, and it worked. I think he has to be rewarded for that, and it might just be game time as and when. Do I think it'll work out? Not really, because my biggest criticism so far of the team, Frankie, is that we're just not creating anything in open play. I think I've not been very impressed with our chance creation or anything like that. I've not been watching us confident we're going to go on and score. I think in terms of big chances created so far this season, we're 19th in the league. It's not a pretty look. Difficult fixtures for sure, but Saturday's not any easier. Chelsea's not. It's not any easier than Fulham. So I think for a striker to perform, you need to be creating chances regardless of who your striker is, and we haven't been doing that. So whether it be Antonio, Fulkrug, Bowen, Ings, I don't think any of them can be a success until something different happens behind them, whether that's Kudus, Paqueta, Solar, Jared Bowen himself. I don't know. I think other things need to change before we can have a serious conversation regarding who the best striker is for the Lopetegui system. Because at the minute, I don't think there is one, because I don't know what the system is yet. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what the requirement of the striker is until we get there. So second chances for Ings, I'm not so sure, but maybe a chance off the bench if we need a goal. And that's an improvement on where he was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think very, very fair comment. I can't believe with the options that we've got up front and all that firepower that we're where we are. I felt like they would almost sort of create chances themselves with that if we had that sort of power and that pace from Kudus and Bowen and Somerville. I just never expected us to be in this position. I never saw after our window that we would be having Antonio up front, being 19th for chance creation. And then while we're not saying that neither of us are saying we expect things to start against Chelsea, it's even crept in as just a really outside chance. So I just never thought we'd be here. I just, it's very strange. It's not what I thought we would be playing like, why we're doing it, and why we've got these three sort of really defensive minded sort of midfielders in the middle of the park at the moment, and why we're sticking with that. I just don't understand it. I want to see the shackles come off. I want to see the reins taken off and let us go at teams. But we knew that Lopetegui wasn't that type of manager. We knew that he was a defensive manager. We knew he was a pragmatic manager. We knew that that wasn't necessarily his style. But there were just times in pre-season where we saw the wide defenders really pushing up and almost being allowed to seriously attack and to support the wide midfielders, letting them fill in and overlapping them. But we haven't seen much of that. That sort of suggests that we're not totally confident in our defence at the moment. And is Mavropanos playing a big part of that? I had a bit of an issue with Mavropanos in pre-season. I got a little bit of digs about it, and a lot of people were saying that I was too harsh on him. But at the moment, I wish Todibo had shone in that Bournemouth game, and he didn't, and was looking like a bit of a player knocking on that door, and we would know that, look, you've made another mistake. It's time for you to sit this one out, and Todibo comes in. I'm not even so sure we're there either. So I expected us to have a bit more up front and more and different options in attack and playing in a different way. I also expected Todibo to be already the man alongside Kilman, and we're not seeming like we're close to that either. So that is going to pain people, because we had this window of lots of new options coming in, and we're not seeing them, all of them at play yet. And I guess that's why people are a little bit frustrated.
Well, I want to turn our attentions to Saturday then to wrap up the podcast. 2 questions for you, Frankie. First of all, what's the 11 you want to see? Let's just say Fulkrug's available. I don't know yet. I don't know if Fulkrug's available, but for the interest of the podcast, for a little bit of fun, he's got a full bill of health. You can pick anybody you want. Anyone's available for you this weekend. What would your 11 look like? Obviously, Areola in goal, then Emerson, who's a doubt as well, but you can have him. So Emerson left back, Wan-Bissaka right back, Kilman. Who would you play next to him?
I have to play Mavropanos because I just don't know what's going on with Todibo at the moment. We haven't seen him. There's been some sort of like talk around where is he, why he just doesn't. It doesn't feel like he's a player knocking on the door at the moment. It's not like even in the Aston Villa game where he come on against Aston Villa and looked like a bit of a player at that point.
Yeah,
he sort of then went a bit backwards in the Bournemouth game, and then I haven't seen him look like a player since. He hasn't really come on and shone or looked like, hang on a minute, he might have only come on for the last 10 minutes to, give Mavropanos a sit-out or whatever, but he looks like he's ready. I'm not sitting here going, I think Tadebo's ready for the starting lineup. So for that reason, you have to go with consistency and you have to give Mavropanos the nod again, I'm afraid.
In front of your back four, then into midfield, I'm going to assume Alvarez in there, but who would you like next to Alvarez? Against Chelsea, this isn't a long-term thing, just this weekend only. Who would you like to see next to Alvarez?
Yeah, it's hard. It's a tough one for me. You know that and everyone will know, I'm not the biggest Rodriguez fan. I just don't think that he's mobile enough. I don't think he's up to speed with the Premier League. But I'm getting fed up with seeing these three players in the middle anyway. So if I'm honest, I haven't thought about it enough to say confidently that that's the people that I want to see in there. Alvarez is the shoe-in, obviously. Yeah. He's looking like he's the best player in the middle of the park at the moment for us. So yeah, I honestly couldn't give you my midfield. Where I'm going is up top is where I know.
Well, we'll come back to your midfield once you've done the rest of your team. We'll see who's available, and then you're gonna have to pick one. Your attacking midfield, or would you like jump straight to striker and work backwards? Where would you like to go?
Yeah,
next?
I think I want to go with that front three. I just want to see the combination of Bowen, Kudus, and Somerville. It's time. It's time. I want to see it. I want to see us to be more athletic. I want to see us to actually give their players something to think and worry about. And Somerville always looks bright. He, like you say, probably went a little bit missing at the end of the Fulham game. He come on, looked bright. Bit of a challenge went in on him and he sort of hid a little bit after that. But I still want to see him. I want to see Bowen down the middle. I want to see Kudus on the right-hand side.
So in the advanced midfielder role, the number 10 role, who would you like in there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough old decision, isn't it? It's
I think you've got, unless I'm missing anyone, I think you've got 4 players to choose from here. Well, 4.5. I'll give you the half is Danny Ings in a number 10 role, right?
Yeah, no,
that's the reason I say half is because I didn't think he would, but he looked all right there once under Moyes against Sheffield United. So I think you've got 4 into 2 here. I think you've got Paqueta, Soler, Souček, and Rodriguez. Unless you're going to bring in the Iron Brew Iniesta and put Andy Irving in there. But I'm on the assumption you're going to leave him out. I think you've got 4 into 2. So which 2 would you select?
It's hard. I think I would probably go with, and if we're going to play that 3, then for me it's got to be Paqueta, Soler, and Alvarez. Yeah. And I would probably allow Soler and Paqueta to sort of take it in turns to be that more advanced player. I think Paqueta can sometimes he can go a little bit missing. Sometimes he can give the ball away when he's too deep. There's always been that question of whether he's more of an 8, more of a 10, whether he plays here, plays there. And there's always been that debate. I think the concern is when he's the deepest of the 2 players who do get forward. Alvarez is obviously a blocker, he sits, and the other 2, it's a bit like, well, I get concerned at how much Paqueta gives the ball away when he's deep, because the deeper he is, the more chance the attacking team have got of hurting you if he does give the ball away. So that's what worries me. But I wouldn't have a problem with Soler trying to maybe get forward and be a bit creative. We need Paqueta more advanced and doing those balls over the top to Bowen like we've seen, because that is that chance creation that we're missing. So yeah, that would probably be the 3 for me.
And last question then, your score prediction. How are you feeling?
Well, here's the thing, Geo. So I don't miss many games. As you know. My boy has his first league match this weekend at 10:30. So it is going to be a very difficult job to get to the London Stadium in time for kickoff. So at the moment, rather than ripping his boots off, and if he's won his first game, he might want to spend a bit of time with his mates celebrating and whatever, I don't want to just drag him straight off up to the London Stadium. So it's quite likely that I won't be there. Because of that reason, I'm going to go for a 3-1 West Ham win.
I would love that. I hope you're right, Frankie. I do hope you're right. I'll be doing my preview with Gonzo tomorrow, where I'm not too dissimilar. I've got a couple of different options to Frankie. I think 9 of our 11 match, 8 at worst anyway. And I'll be discussing my score prediction with Gonzo. In case anyone's wondering why I'm not giving mine, I will. It's just on a different, rather than repeat himself, it's on a different podcast. But Frankie, thank you. I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed that catch up. Next week will be a busy one because we'll be talking Chelsea. Then we've got the Liverpool Cup game next week as well. And I guess long term, perhaps the most important thing is we'll have another game, another match, another 90 minutes of evidence to dissect in regards to the bigger picture of it. Because I'm like you, I'm patient, but every game's a bit of the jigsaw for me, just one piece of the jigsaw. But you can talk about every game individually. It just forms the bigger picture to some extent. And I'm looking for evidence which says when we're at home, we are going to attack more. We are going to be on the front foot more. We'll get a little insight into Saturday. So I'm looking forward to this one. This is
one of the big differences we didn't touch upon, but we definitely have more possession this season. So that's a lot of people are saying it's not too dissimilar to Moyes, but it is because we have a lot more of the ball. So.
In some games, I think Aston Villa was similar to.
Yeah, we went through it last season though. Do you remember? And there was a big chunk of games. It was like 20 games in, and there was only like 3 games where we'd had more than 30 odd percent possession. So
I don't want to get too geeky, right?
Come on, Joe, get geeky. I want to hear it. Give me something I can latch onto. We've
had more possession deeper in the pitch this season so far. So. Have we had more possession? Perhaps I don't know. I'm going to take your word for it and say yes.
The area you don't want more possession, basically.
But it's further back the pitch. So let's just say Moyes' biggest percentage came in the middle third. It's now the back third, if you like. So we retreated a few yards under Lopetegui. But I do think the one thing I will say is I think the data pool is too small so far. I think 4 league games, it's not enough. But also I think it's a tough mix. Aston Villa and Man City at home, that's 2 Champions League teams there. That's difficult. And then Fulham and Crystal Palace away, 2 teams who I expect to not be in a relegation battle and can be quite difficult places to go to this season. So I think he's had a hard start to the season, but I think what that does for me is it skews the statistics a little bit. I do look at them. I am a little bit of a nerd when it comes to stuff like this, but it's just I need probably 19 games or something before I really start to extract value from the data, if that makes sense, Frankie. As I always say, statistics, I think they're indicators. They're not the be-all and end-all. They're just indicators.
Well, I work with data on a daily basis, massive spreadsheets, Geo, and there is a lot to be said for statistical reliability, and that only comes when you have enough data. So you're absolutely correct there, mate, and spot on. So I absolutely concur, but there's just signs for me. I think we've got a bit more possession. I think we're seeing a little bit more of the ball. It makes my boy enjoy it a little bit more. So let's just see if we can turn that into. Yeah, I think we will.
I think Saturday. I'd be surprised if Souček played. Genuinely, I'm not even taking the piss. I'd genuinely be surprised if he was on that starting. I think the middle of the midfield will be Rodriguez, Alvarez and Paqueta, and I think you'll see us retain the ball pretty comfortably as well against Chelsea, who I don't think were the best against Bournemouth in their previous game. I didn't watch Chelsea and think, oh no, this is scary. If anything, I watched them again. Hello, I fancy a pop at these boys actually. So we'll see. But Frankie, thank you so much, and thank you to you guys listening at home. Our longest podcast yet, I think. But if you've enjoyed it, please do drop a like on it by clicking thumbs up. Helps out the video, helps out the channel. Subscribe to Hammers Chat, myself and Frankie. Catch up with you next week.